For someone who could hold a full conversation with a coffee machine, she completely forgot how to talk the day she saw him stand in front of her, half undressed, scarred, strong. Nothing like the broken man people assumed he was. Her mouth went dry. Her tongue forgot its job, and every coherent thought she had flew straight out the window. In that moment, she couldn't remember her own name, let alone a sentence. Only that the impossible billionaire on crutches was suddenly the most dangerously attractive man she'd ever seen. And that was before he dropped the shirt and said, in that low, calm voice of his, "Then don't stop staring." She hadn't gotten there yet. She was still just a barista in a borrowed apron, arguing with a coffee machine that hated her. For someone who could hold a full conversation with a coffee machine, Sloane Marwick had no idea how much her life was about to change. She didn't know that within a week, she'd stand face to face with a man whose power, silence, and scars could rearrange every steady piece of herself. She didn't know that she would one day see him half undressed, fighting gravity with nothing but grit and trembling strength. She didn't know she would forget her own name at the sight of him. All she knew on this particular morning was that Brenda, the cafe espresso machine, had chosen violence again. "Please," she whispered, pressing her palm to the side panel like she was checking a pulse. "Don't explode today. Not when I'm already working on a warning." A hiss escaped the nozzle. Hot steam fogged her glasses. A thin line of milk shot sideways, like it had a personal grudge. She sighed, pushing her hair out of her face. The cafe sat on the ground floor of Merrick Industries, a glossy, marble-floored tower where rich people walked like their shoes never touched dirt. Morning light streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows. Corporate employees lined up for caffeine, tapping feet, checking watches. And all of them depended on Brenda, a rusty trader. "Come on, girl," Sloane muttered, adjusting the frother. "Let's keep your temper between us, okay?" Behind her, the line thickened. The sound of shuffling suits made her shoulders tense. She focused harder. The milk bubbled, then spit. A little more. A little more. Poof! A cloud of foam erupted like a dairy volcano. A man in a tie yelped. A woman ducked. Sloane winced. "Okay, that one's on me." She grabbed towels, started wiping, mumbling a steady stream of personal prayers she hoped no one heard. She burned her finger, dropped a cup, and apologized to the napkin dispenser when it toppled over in protest. Her morning was chaos. Most people's weren't. Not in this building. Especially not the man descending from the elevator right now. Calder Merrick never walked unnoticed, even with the crutches, even with the slow, deliberate steps. He was the kind of man the air moved for, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a sharp charcoal suit that probably cost more than Sloane's monthly rent. His dark hair fell slightly over his forehead, tousled in a way that looked accidental and expensive. The lines of his jaw were clean and unyielding, his expression cut from stillness itself. He was recovering from the accident, yes, but nothing about him looked weak. Not his presence, not his silence, not the steel in his eyes. Those carbon fiber crutches, sleek, matte black, custom-made, didn't soften him. They made him more intimidating, somehow, like a soldier carrying his own battlefield. Staff moved out of his way, without being asked. Conversation thinned. The building seemed to brace itself. And beside him, stepping lightly in heels that matched her pearls, was his mother, Mira Hollis, aristocratic, composed, with silver hair swept into a perfect low chignon. She walked like she owned the place, because she did. "Calder," she said with patient annoyance, "I'm not asking you to smile. I'm asking you to stop scowling at every human being who breathes in your direction." He didn't look at her. "I'm not scowling. Sweetheart, if your face could freeze water, we'd save a fortune on ice." He sighed. "Mother, we're getting coffee," she continued, "before your board meeting. I don't need coffee. You need a reset. I need employees who don't quit on day 4. She patted his arm. You're not unlovable, darling. You're just afraid someone might see you. His jaw flexed. A muscle twitched near his temple. That was all. But she saw it. She always did. They rounded the corner toward the cafe. Sloane was still begging Brenda not to explode for the second time. The universe ignored her. Calder Merrick walked through the door, just as the machine launched another burst of steamed milk, straight into Sloane's apron. She froze. He froze. Mira Hollis's eyebrows lifted with delight. Sloane swallowed hard. Morning. Her hair was messy, her glasses fogged, her apron decorated with dairy crimes. She held a pitcher in one hand, a towel in the other, and the confidence of a terrified wild rabbit. Calder stared at her like she had materialized out of thin air, and with equal suspicion, his eyes were sharp, quiet, assessing. Sloane could feel her pulse in her ears. Good morning, dear, Mira said warmly. May I have a cappuccino? Extra foam. Absolutely, Sloane said, voice squeaking. She cleared her throat. Yes, extra foam. I can. I will. I shall. Mira smiled. Calder didn't. He folded both hands over his crutches, and his gaze did a slow sweep of the destroyed counter. Her milk-stained apron, her shaking hands, her sock, which had somehow gotten wet again. Black coffee, he said. No sugar, no cream, no conversation. Sloane blinked. Got it? Coffee. Black. No fun. Mira laughed. Calder did not. Sloane started the drinks, hands moving fast but uncertain. She avoided looking at him, but she felt him, felt the pressure of his stillness, like the world waited for his permission to breathe. As the machine groaned again, she whispered, Don't you dare embarrass me. Who are you talking to? Calder asked. She jumped. No one. The machine. He stared. You talk to the machine. She listens better than most people. She regretted it instantly. Mira gave a delighted, elegant clap. I love her. Calder gave his mother a warning look, but she ignored it. Sloane handed over the cappuccino, then the black coffee. Calder lifted the cup, sipped, and said in the world's most neutral voice, It's fine. Mira gasped in offense. Calder Merrick, apologize right now. That is not fine. That is outstanding. It's coffee, he murmured. You see what I deal with? Mira said to Sloane. Sloane tried to smile without accidentally crying. She succeeded. Barely. Then the older woman leaned closer, lowering her voice conspiratorially. Tell me, Sloane, how long have you worked here? 3 months. And before this? Grad school. Literature. I was writing my thesis on narrative. Oh, wonderful, Mira said. Calder loves literature. He did not react. At all. Mira ignored him and sipped her cappuccino with pleasure. When they finished, she touched Calder's arm. Stay here a moment. I need to ask the manager something. Calder sighed but complied. She walked off, leaving him alone with Sloane. Silence expanded. Sloane wiped the counter. Fast. Faster. Her motions were frantic enough to qualify as cardiovascular exercise. Calder watched her. Not kindly, not unkindly. Just watched, as if she were a malfunction. He couldn't diagnose. Finally, he said, You're new. I've been here 3 months. That's new. For some people, she said, for this coffee machine, it's practically a long-term commitment. He exhaled, a sound that wasn't a laugh but was not a laugh. She counted it as a win. Mira returned and planted both hands on the counter. Sloane, dear, how would you like a new job? Sloane choked on air. Calder's head snapped toward his mother. No, he said sharply. Yes, she said sweetly. I didn't agree to this. I didn't ask. Calder gripped his crutches so tightly she worried they'd snap. Mira smiled innocently. You'll start Monday. 10th floor. HR will have your paperwork. What? Sloane squeaked. Calder stepped forward, jaw locked. Mother, you need someone with warmth, she said. Someone who won't treat you like you're fragile. Sloane blinked at Calder. He was staring at her like she was a grenade someone had rolled into his life. Pin missing. Mira turned to Sloane. Monday morning. 9 sharp. Don't be late. And with that, she walked away. Calder stood frozen, chest rising with quiet fury. Sloane whispered, Am I fired? Hired? Kidnapped? What just happened? But Calder was already walking away, his steps deliberate, powerful, controlled. No limp, no hesitation. Just a man used to forcing the world to move around him. Before he reached the elevator, he looked back at her. Just once. A slow, unreadable look. Then the doors closed. Sloane stood in a puddle of milk, holding a damp towel, whispering to the machine that had betrayed her. Brenda, she said faintly, Monday is going to be a nightmare. Brenda hissed in agreement. Monday arrived faster than any day had a right to. Sloane Marwick stood outside Merrick Industries in her best blazer and second-best shoes, holding a thin folder of important professional documents that mostly contained her thesis, a half-finished grocery list, and a motivational quote she liked. The building towered above her, steel and glass and money. People in suits slipped through the revolving doors like they'd been born knowing how to do it. Sloane whispered to herself, You can still run. You can go back to Brenda. Brenda never promoted anyone. She didn't run. She stepped inside. The lobby gleamed. Marble floors reflected crisp silhouettes. Security guards checked badges with relaxed efficiency. A huge abstract sculpture sat in the middle, like it was important enough to have its own resume. Sloane walked to the front desk. The receptionist looked up, smiled professional and sharp. Good morning. How can I help you? Hi, Sloane said, clutching her folder. I'm Sloane Marwick. I was told to report to HR, 10th floor. The receptionist tapped at her keyboard, eyes flicking from the screen back to Sloane. Her brows lifted the slightest bit. Oh, she said, you're the new assistant. Sloane's stomach dropped. That sounds ominous. The receptionist's smile tightened a fraction. Good luck. 2 words that were not comforting at all. Sloane squeezed into an elevator with 3 other people. 2 men in suits, 1 woman with a tablet and a stern expression. She pressed a button for 10. The elevator doors closed. Silence hummed. One of the men glanced at her badge. You're new. Is it that obvious? She muttered. He smirked. You're going to 10? You with Merrick? I think so, she said. Assistant. The other man let out a low whistle. No assistant has survived more than 4 days with him. The woman with the tablet nodded. He doesn't just fire assistants, she said quietly. He destroys them. Sloane's throat went dry. That's encouraging. He once fired someone for bringing the wrong sushi, the first man added. Another one for being too cheerful. And one, the woman said, for breathing too loud on a stressful day. Breathing, Sloane repeated weakly. Wrong, the man confirmed. The elevator dinged on the 8th floor. 2 of them stepped out, leaving Sloane alone with her thoughts and a very quiet tablet woman. The woman looked at her and said, not unkindly, If you don't like conflict, this is going to be rough. I talk to coffee machines, Sloane replied. Conflict and I have history. The woman huffed a small laugh as the elevator reached the 10th floor. Good luck, she said again and stepped out. Sloane followed. The executive floor looked nothing like the rest of the building. It was too clean, too quiet, too expensive. White walls, Glass offices. Thick carpet that softened every footstep. Art that probably had a deeper meaning she would never understand. Her heart hammered. Okay, she whispered to herself. You survived grad school. You survived a year with Brenda. You can survive one man with fancy crutches. Ms. Marwick. She turned. A woman in her 40s walked toward her with a clipboard and a calm, capable air. She wore a navy dress and low heels and carried herself like nothing surprised her anymore. I'm Taryn Calloway, head of HR, she said. Come with me. Sloan followed her into a glass-walled office. They sat. Taryn slid a stack of forms across the desk. You've been fast-tracked, Taryn said. Mrs. Hollis was very insistent. I noticed, Sloan muttered. Taryn's lips twitched. This role is demanding. You'll manage Mr. Merrick's calendar, filter his communication, coordinate with department heads, and act as his gatekeeper. You'll sit outside his office. You'll see everything. Wow, Sloan said softly. No pressure. Taryn tapped her pen thoughtfully. Off the record, Sloan, he's difficult, but he's fair. He doesn't like incompetence, dishonesty, or pity. I'm only guilty of 2 of those, Sloan said. On bad days. Taryn smiled properly for the first time. You're funny. That might help. They finished the paperwork faster than Sloan thought possible. Taryn stood, gesturing for her to follow. Let me show you your desk. They walked down the hallway. Every door had a discreet plaque. Legal, finance, operations, public relations. Sloan caught a glimpse of Alara Winslow, poised, polished, eyes sharp, through the PR office door. Alara glanced up, assessed Sloan in a heartbeat, then returned to her screen. Predator, Sloan thought faintly. Elegant predator. Taryn stopped. Here you are, she said. Sloan looked. Her desk sat directly in front of a large glass door with a name etched in silver. Calder Merrick. Her stomach somersaulted. Oh no, that's very close. That's the job, Taryn said. Yours first line of defense. Like a shield, Sloan whispered, or a sacrificial lamb. You'll get his schedule, his calls, his visitors. You'll see sides of him most people don't. Taryn's voice softened. Don't take his moods personally. He's been through more than people know. Sloan nodded slowly. Is there a manual for this? Not one that would keep you from wanting to quit, Taryn said. But Mrs. Hollis sees something in you. That matters. Sloan placed her bag beside the sleek chair and brushed her fingers over the keyboard. The monitor blinked awake. A small potted plant sat at the corner of the desk, leaves bright and glossy. She leaned close to it and whispered, I know you're fake, but I need you on my side. Taryn smiled again. He'll be back from a meeting soon. Take a minute. Breathe. When Taryn walked away, Sloan sank into chair. From where she sat, she could see the whole floor, the conference rooms, the glass offices, the elevator bank at the far end. A few people glanced her way, whispered each other, then pretended not to look. She exhaled and muttered under her breath to the plant, the computer, the phone. Okay, new friends. Let's see how many days we last. Somewhere down the hall, the elevator dinged. The door slid open. Calder Merrick stepped out. He moved with that same controlled power she'd seen in the cafe. Crutches in perfect rhythm, shoulders steady, suit flawless. His gaze flicked over the floor, then landed on her. For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other. Sloan's palms went slick. He walked toward his office. Didn't slow, didn't smile, didn't acknowledge her beyond that single measuring look. He passed her desk, opened his door, stepped inside. The door closed with a soft click. Sloan stared at it, heart pounding. She swallowed and whispered to the plant, I want to go home. The plant offered no opinion. She adjusted her chair, opened the company email for the first time, and found her inbox already filling with meeting invites labeled for Calder, urgent, immediate, today. Somewhere inside that office, the man who scared entire departments sat, unaware that the woman now guarding his door was terrified of both him and the printer. Monday had officially begun. By 10 o'clock, Sloan had learned 3 things. 1. Calder Merrick's calendar was a battlefield. 2. Every department believed their request was urgent enough to risk death. 3. Nobody on the 10th floor trusted her yet. Whispers floated over the petition. Is that the new one? She won't last a week. I heard he fired the last one for crying in the bathroom. Sloan kept her head down and her hands busy. She color-coded the calendar, replied to emails, and tried to remember which acronym belonged to which department. She was mid-email when his office door opened. Ms. Marwick. Her name and his voice made her fingers fumble. She turned in her chair. Calder stood in the doorway, balanced on his crutches, expression unreadable. Come in, he said. Her legs didn't want to cooperate, but she forced them to. The office swallowed her the moment she stepped inside. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city. Shelves lined the walls. His desk sat like a command center, organized with painful precision. He didn't sit. He watched her. Do you know why you're here? He asked. Because your mother wields more power than gravity, she blurted. One of his eyebrows lifted the slightest bit. You have no corporate experience. Correct, she said. You spilled coffee on 4 people in 3 months. Only 2 of them cried, she admitted. And your degree is in literature. Yes. Do you have any skills relevant to this job? I can alphabetize aggressively, she said. And I narrate everything. Out loud. It's a condition. He just looked at her. Silence stretched. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other and muttered, I'm making this worse, aren't I? Yes, he said. At least he was honest. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, then pressed speaker. Calder. Came Mira Hollis's voice, bright and unbothered. Are you being polite? No, he said. Good. Polite doesn't suit you. Have you met Sloan properly? She's here, he replied. Wonderful. You're keeping her. That is not your decision, Calder said. It is actually, Mira answered. She has what the others lack. And what is that? He asked. Honesty, Mira said, and the ability to make you react. Sloan stared at the floor, cheeks on fire. Mother. No arguments. Mira cut in. Keep her for a week. The call ended with a soft click. Sloan cleared her throat. Should I pretend I didn't hear any of that? You heard it, Calder said, and pretending never changed the truth. He studied her for a long moment, gaze moving from her clean, but not expensive blazer to the folder still clutched in her hands. You will not survive a week, he said quietly. I guarantee it. Her spine straightened. Fear flared, but something stubborn flared brighter. Then I'll survive 8 days, she replied. Just to annoy you. Silence. His mouth didn't quite turn up, but something amused flickered in his eyes. It vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. You'll receive tasks by email, he said. Calendar updates. File conversions. Reports to be summarized. Try not to destroy anything. Yes, sir, she murmured. She made it back to her desk on shaking legs. Her first task arrived 30 seconds later. Scan and digitize attached file. Cross-reference with last quarter's reports. Flag discrepancies. Deadline noon. She opened the file. It was 3 inches thick. Noon, she whispered. He means another noon. In another lifetime. She grabbed the company tablet, stood up, and dropped it. It hit the carpet with a loud, offended clatter. A director walking past stopped mid-step. Another co-worker peered over the top of a partition. Sloane winced, picked it up, and whispered to it, "Please don't sue me." Behind the glass, Calder watched. For the first time that day, the corner of his mouth actually moved. Just a fraction. Just enough for Alera Winslow, standing by the PR office door, to see. Her eyes narrowed, and the collision course truly began. Most nights, the 10th floor was quiet by 7. Shadows from the skyline stretched across the polished halls, and the glass offices turned into mirrors that reflected a world too tired to keep pretending. But tonight, Sloane Marwick wasn't supposed to be there. She had made it all the way down to the lobby before realizing she left an important folder on her desk, one Calder Merrick needed for the morning briefing. The kind of folder that, if forgotten, would probably get her fired before sunrise. So she hurried back upstairs, clutching her badge and praying the building wouldn't judge her for breathing too loudly. The 10th floor was nearly dark. She stepped quietly across the marble, heading toward her desk when she heard something faint, rhythmic, strained. A low exhale, a thud, another exhale, this time deeper, heavier. She froze. The sound was coming from a side hallway she had never entered before. A door stood slightly open, spilling a sliver of warm light onto the floor. Her heartbeat slowed. Curiosity nudged her feet forward. She wasn't snooping, she told herself. She was ensuring no one was dying. Yes, responsible behavior. She reached the doorway and peeked inside, and everything inside her stopped. Calder Merrick, coal billionaire, impossible boss, living warning label for assistants, was standing shirtless in a private rehabilitation room she didn't know existed. The room was lined with parallel bars and soft flooring, the kind used for physical therapy. He gripped the bars tight, muscle carved along his arms, shoulders strong enough to hold up half the world. Sweat tracked down his back in clean lines that caught the light, sliding over the fine muscle built from years of lifting his own weight. His chest rose and fell with effort, powerful and steady, every breath a fight against pain he refused to show. He was trying to stand without his crutches. Slowly, straining, determined, scars ran across his side and along his back, evidence of the battle he survived, not a weakness. Sloane's breath left her like she'd been punched. Her mouth went dry. Her knees went weak. Her thoughts shot straight out of the window of her skull. She whispered into the empty hallway, "Oh, wow!" Her whisper must have carried, because Calder turned. He didn't stumble. He didn't flinch. He just looked at her, half undressed, chest rising, sweat shining on his skin, vulnerability wrapped in strength. And she felt attraction hit her, so hard she could barely breathe. His eyes narrowed in confusion, then caution. "Sloane." His voice was raw from exertion. "What are you doing here?" She held up the forgotten folder with a shaking hand. "I left this, and came back, and now I'm here, which is here. And, I'll leave now." He didn't move. Not toward his shirt. Not toward his crutches. Not toward the safety of pretending he wasn't half naked in front of a woman who suddenly could remember how senses worked. He studied her carefully, as if waiting for the pity he had seen on 1,000 other faces. She didn't give him any. Instead, the words left her before she could stop them. "You're strong." He froze, not in anger, not in embarrassment. Something softer. Something he wasn't used to receiving. Her feet moved on their own, bringing her one step into the room. "People think your crutches make you weak," she whispered. "They're wrong." Calder's grip tightened on the parallel bars. His jaw flexed, his eyes dark with something she had never seen on him before, uncertainty. "How do I look to you, then?" he asked quietly. Sloane's voice nearly failed her. "Like someone I shouldn't be staring at, but I can't stop." A breath left his chest, slow, controlled, but trembling underneath. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not since the accident. Maybe not even before it. He reached for his shirt lying nearby, then paused, then dropped it to the floor. His eyes locked onto hers, steady and unarmored. Then, "Don't stop," he murmured. Electricity slid through her, hot and sudden. Her breath caught. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She didn't move closer, but her body leaned in the slightest inch, as if pulled by something neither of them understood, but both felt. For a long moment, the room held them in silence, just her shallow breathing and his steady, determined inhales. Two people who weren't meant to collide, standing in the middle of a moment that felt too intimate to breathe inside. He straightened slowly, relying on his arms, showing strength that had nothing to do with perfection. She whispered, "I won't tell anyone I saw this." "I know," he said. Their eyes held, and that was the beginning of everything, though neither of them understood it yet. When Sloane finally stepped back, she felt her whole world shifting, rearranging itself around the image of him standing there, scarred, powerful, half-broken, and somehow the strongest man she'd ever seen. She closed the door gently behind her and called her Merrick, alone again in the quiet room. Let out a breath he had been holding since the moment he saw the look on her face. The first look of a woman who saw him, truly saw him, not as weakness, but as a man. The next morning, the 10th floor felt different. Sloane stepped out of the elevator with a forgotten folder clutched under her arm, the memory of last night still burning behind her ribs. She tried to walk normally, breathe normally, act like she hadn't seen her boss half undressed with sweat glistening down his back. Act like she hadn't stopped breathing when he told her not to stop staring. Her desk felt colder than usual. She sat down and whispered to the keyboard, "Let's pretend nothing happened. Please cooperate." The keyboard remained judgmental and silent. She hadn't even opened her email when Elara Winslow appeared beside her desk. Elara, with her immaculate chignon slate-gray dress, and smile sharp enough to peel paint from walls. "Good morning," Elara said sweetly, though her eyes held no kindness. "We need to chat." Sloane rose slowly. "About what?" Elara stepped closer, too close, lowering her voice. "About your behavior." "My behavior? You're embarrassing him," Elara whispered. "This company has an image to maintain. He needs professionalism, not someone who talks to printers and stares at him like he's a miracle." Sloane's cheeks heated. "I don't stare at him like that." "You do. Everyone sees it." Elara's tone tightened. "You don't belong in his world. You know that." Sloane's throat closed. She sank back into her chair. Elara softened her voice, but not her eyes. "If you care about him, you'll step back. Stay quiet. Stay out of sight." Then she walked away, her heels clicking like a metronome counting down Sloane's confidence. Something inside Sloane folded. Her voice dimmed. Her humor vanished. Her chaotic commentary went silent. For the rest of the morning, she answered emails with short, correct replies, avoided eye contact, and moved like someone trying not to be noticed. The 10th floor noticed. Every time she stayed quiet near the printer, someone glanced over. Every time she didn't narrate her mistakes, co-workers exchanged looks. It was like watching the lights in a room dim one by one. Inside his office, Calder Merrick felt the shift immediately. He didn't hear her soft muttering through the glass. He didn't hear her tell the iPad to cooperate, or else. He didn't hear her whisper apologies to the ficus plant. He stood from his desk, leaning on his crutches, and looked through the glass wall at her still posture. Something felt wrong. He stepped out. Sloane. She didn't look up immediately. When she did, her smile was thin and practiced. "Yes, Mr. Merrick?" The formality stung. "You're quiet," he said. I'm working. That's not an answer, he murmured. She kept typing. He moved closer, grip tightening on his crutches. Did someone say something to you? No, she whispered. Look at me. She did. Her eyes were dim, controlled. She looked like someone trying not to fall apart. Calder's chest tightened. Tell me what happened. It doesn't matter, she said softly. Maybe I'm not good enough for this place. Or for you. His breath stilled. He lowered his voice. You make me feel alive. Don't change for anyone. Her eyes glistened. She looked away quickly. I should get back to work. He wanted to ask more, say more, reach for her even though he knew he shouldn't. But she turned her focus back to the screen, silent as a ghost. The day didn't get easier. That evening, the yearly donor gala turned into a mess. The microphone failed while Calder was on stage. No sound, no backup, nothing but embarrassed murmurs. Ilera was at the control table. Her fingers moved too quickly. Her smile too satisfied. Sloan saw it. Before Calder could react, Sloan stepped into the aisle and shouted, he said, then delivered a beautifully honest, comedic, heartfelt translation of every line he attempted. People laughed. They clapped. They adored him. Calder stared at her with something warm, something grateful, something he wasn't used to feeling. Ilera stared at her like she wanted to strike a match and watch Sloan disappear in smoke. The sabotage continued at the next press conference. Another sound failure, another crisis. Again, Sloan saved him. But Ilera had reached her breaking point. The next morning, she marched to Sloan's desk, held up a thin envelope, and said, Sign this. Sign what? Your resignation. Sloan stepped back. No, it's for the best, Ilera murmured. Take the payout. Leave before you destroy his reputation. I'm not signing anything, Sloan whispered. Ilera's eyes darkened. You're being foolish. Sloan stood straighter. Or brave. She walked away before her courage could vanish. She didn't mean to end up in the elevator. She just needed a space where no one could see the tears burning her eyes. But the elevator wasn't empty. 5 employees stood inside. 2 HR managers. A director. Sloan stepped in, and then her heart snapped. She exhaled and whispered, I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired. She sabotaged his microphone. She threatened me. She tried to make me sign a resignation letter. I'm trying so hard to belong here, but she hates that he smiles around me. A HR manager gasped. Someone else choked on their... The elevator doors opened unexpectedly on the executive floor. Calder Merrick stood waiting. Sloan froze. HR froze. Everyone froze. His gaze swept from her trembling hands to the HR team, then to Ilera, who stepped out of her office at the worst possible second. He spoke quietly. Is what I just heard true? No one dared to lie. The HR manager nodded. All of it. We heard everything. Ilera stuttered. Calder, she's exaggerating. Enough, he said. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Ilera Winslow. He said calmly, turn in your badge. Her face blanched. You can't. I can, he replied. And I am. Gasps rippled across the hallway. He stepped closer to Sloan, lowering his voice so only she could hear. You're promoted, he murmured. Effective immediately. She stared at him in disbelief. Why? His eyes softened. Because I need someone honest beside me. You. And for the first time since the accident, he felt something shift inside him. Something hopeful, something terrifying, something that had nothing to do with business. He didn't know what to call it yet. But Sloan was the reason he felt alive. Sloan Marwick lasted 3 more days after her promotion. 3 days of polite smiles. 3 days of perfect posture. 3 days of pretending she didn't feel the weight of 1,000 eyes on her every step. 3 days of wondering whether she was ruining the life of a man she had accidentally fallen for. She finally broke on a quiet Thursday morning. Calder found her resignation letter before he found her, one simple page, typed neatly and placed in the center of her desk. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't even signed in shaky handwriting. It was calm, and that was what cut him open. "I'm returning home," the letter said. "I think that's where I belong." Calder read it twice. By the third time, the words blurred. The 10th floor was silent when he whispered, "Sloan, why?" His mother answered that question 6 hours later when she stepped into his office, saw the resignation letter in his hand, and let out a quiet sigh. Calder, she didn't leave because she didn't care. Mira Hollis said gently. She left because she cared too much. He looked out the window at the city, jaw tight, shoulders tense. "She shouldn't have left without telling me." "She thought she was protecting you," Mira replied. "Sometimes fear masquerades as sacrifice." He closed his eyes. Mira stepped closer. "You let the only woman who ever saw you walk away. Go get her." His hands tightened on his crutches. He didn't argue. He didn't hesitate. He didn't ask for time. He grabbed his keys and left. Sloan's hometown was 3 hours away. Calder made it in 2. His adapted vehicle rumbled into the small, quiet neighborhood where houses had peeling paint and lush gardens, where people waved at unfamiliar cars because friendliness wasn't optional. It was a culture. He parked near a small blue house at the end of the road. There she was, outside, suitcases on the porch, hair tied loosely, wearing an old sweatshirt that swallowed her shoulders, laughing, with a tall, muscular man who picked up her luggage like it weighed nothing. Calder's heart sank. He sat motionless in the driver's seat, hands gripping the steering wheel, breath tight and heavy. The man leaned close to her, said something that made her laugh again. Calder dropped his gaze. He had no claim on her. He had no right to hope. But the sight snapped something inside him anyway. He got out of the car, leaning heavily on his crutches. The sound made her turn. Her eyes widened. "Calder," she whispered. The tall man beside her turned too, friendly, curious, not territorial. Calder's voice was low and steady despite the ache in his chest. "I should have called first." Sloan stepped forward, hands trembling. "What are you doing here?" He took a breath. "I came because—" His voice faltered, but he pushed through. "I came because I don't like who I am without you." Her lips parted. He continued, words raw. "I love who I became when you walked into my life. Chaos and all." The tall man blinked, pointed at himself, and said loudly, "Oh, I'm her brother." Calder almost dropped a crutch. Her brother grinned. "She never stopped talking about you, man. She talked about you so much I felt like I knew your social security number." Sloan covered her face with both hands. "Please stop." The brother shrugged and carried her suitcases inside, sparing them a moment. Calder moved closer, breath slow and uneven. "You left without letting me speak. You left without letting me try." Sloan's eyes filled with tears. "I left because I thought you deserved someone better." "There isn't someone better," he said softly. "There's only the person who sees me." Her voice cracked. "I was scared." "So was I," he admitted. "But the thing that scares me most is losing you again." She stepped closer until they stood one breath apart. Her hand hovered near his chest before resting gently over his heart. "You came all this way," she whispered. "I would have driven across the country." She exhaled shakily. "Take me home." He nodded once. "Always." 3 months later, the world changed again. The ballroom of Merrick Industries was filled with journalists, board members, donors, employees, and the quiet hum of expectation. Calder stood behind the curtain backstage, breathing steadily, leaning on upgraded chrome crutches designed with precision and strength. He wasn't nervous. He was ready. The announcer's voice boomed. "Please welcome Calder Merrick, CEO of Merrick Industries." The curtains parted, and the room went silent. Calder Merrick walked onto the stage, slow, controlled, tall. Each step deliberate. Each shift of weight balanced, with strength carved from months of pain and grit. He didn't look fragile. He didn't look defeated. He looked powerful. A thunder of applause rose around him, filling the ballroom like a storm breaking loose. Sloane stood backstage, both hands over her mouth, tears turning her lashes bright. Calder reached the podium and lifted the microphone. "Thank you," he began. His voice carried confidence and calm. "Today isn't about my recovery. It's about people who deserve a chance to be seen." He paused. "And this new initiative is named after someone who reminded me what it means to live." Gasps and murmurs rippled across the room. "The Sloan Marwick Human Initiative," he announced. "A program dedicated to hiring individuals judged by society for what they lack, instead of what they can give." He turned toward the side curtain, towards her. Everyone followed his gaze. Sloane stepped onto the stage with trembling steps, cheeks flushed, heart racing. He reached out his hand. She placed hers in it. Then Calder did something no one expected. He shifted both crutches to one side, steadied himself, and slowly bent down one knee, then the other. A careful, practiced movement. A declaration. Sloane gasped. The room erupted into a frenzy of camera flashes and applause. Calder lifted a small velvet box. "Sloane Marwick," he said, voice warm and steady. "Never hide who you are. You saved me by being exactly yourself. Will you marry me?" She laughed and cried at the same time, her voice breaking with joy. "Yes, yes, Calder, yes." The audience erupted. People stood, cheered, clapped, cried. He slid the ring onto her shaking hand. Then she whispered, just loud enough for the front row to hear, "I'm narrating my own panic right now." The whole room burst into laughter. Their wedding took place in a garden on the Merrick family estate. Soft lights strung across the trees, gentle music in the air, and every person who mattered standing around them. Calder walked the aisle, with canes, with pride, with strength. Sloane's vows were chaotic and heartfelt. Calder's were steady and tender. When they kissed, Mira Hollis wiped her eyes with a lace handkerchief, whispering, "Finally." And somewhere in the back row, an employee nudged another and said, "They began with spilled coffee and chaos. Look at them now." As the sun dipped behind the trees, Sloane rested her head on Calder's shoulder and whispered, "You stood for me." He kissed her forehead. "You saw me first." And that was the truth. Sometimes a love story begins the moment someone sees you half broken and realizes you're still the strongest person in the room. If you've stayed with me till now, you're my kind of listener. Tell me in the comments, how many days do you think you would last working for a billionaire like Calder Merrick? If you enjoyed the story, tap the like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss the next billionaire romance. And before you go, rate this story from 1 to 10. Your feedback helps me create even better stories for you.